This show was made possible with the continued support of the BetMen affiliates. Only legends break the limits. Well, we made it. This is our last show of the year, and I am about to take some much-deserved and much-needed time off. There were days, my friends, when I didn't think we would get to this point, and yet, here we are. So, why not close out the year the very same way we began the year? By kicking the UK Gambling Commission and UK politicians right in their dangly bits. As you probably know, the UK Chancellor Rachel Reeves recently decided to decimate, if not outright destroy, our industry in the United Kingdom by doubling the tax rate from 21% to 40%. And that's in addition to the challenges operators are already facing from reduced stakes and deposit limits, and in addition to new mandatory levies they are being forced to pay. Up to now, the powers that be in the UK have faced three types of criticism: the obvious, the outspoken, and the obnoxious. The most obvious coming from operators, the most outspoken coming from the Betting and Gaming Council, and the most obnoxious, well, that's me. But now our ranks are growing. The dissent against this tax hike is growing. H2 Capital, an independent B2B consultancy, has calculated that the new tax hike will ultimately yield about half of the money the government was hoping to generate, and that the black market there, which has already exploded by over 500%, will double from its current size by 2028. Then there's the international law firm of CMS, who stated that the UK Treasury is basically clueless when it comes to taxes and our industry, and that the tax hike could force more British operators offshore just to stay competitive. But the loudest voice of dissent comes from within the UK government itself, from the Office for Statistics Regulation, the OSR, who say the statistical data used to justify the tax hike on our industry was misleading. Their words, not mine. Those stats, developed and published by the Department of Health and Social Care, were improperly used, according to the OSR, to deliberately mislead the UK Treasury. Oh my. Oh my. The ink might not be dry on these new taxes that we're facing. And to me, this sounds like an agenda has just been exposed. So we're going to follow up and talk more about that in the second half of our program. Welcome back. I'm going to close out the year and take us home with no news. Just some personal observations from myself as someone who has done 50 of these videos every year for the past 24 years. As I was scripting this show, it occurred to me that the head of the UK Gambling Commission, Andy Rhodes, became the most powerful gambling regulator in the world with absolutely zero experience. That happened in May of 2021, which means, my friends, that if you were working in this industry before April of 2021, you have more practical experience in this industry than the head of the UK Gambling Commission. But that's okay. He's just the jackass running everything. So if you're wondering why he sucks at everything he's done in his position, now you have a clue. And the fact that portions of the UK government are lying, I mean deliberately misleading the UK Treasury about the truth, well, that's just another piece of the puzzle, isn't it? I have stated in the past, and I reiterate now, that it is my belief that the goal of the UK Gambling Commission, the new tax, the new levies, the new rules, restrictions and limits, the new player tracking, the crackdowns, all those things are not meant to regulate our industry at all, but to destroy it, or at least hamstring it to an acceptable level. You know, a level that our opponents can tolerate. Could I be wrong? Of course I could be. However, if none of these crazy things make sense to us from our practical standpoint, then perhaps we need to ask ourselves, what would you do if you wanted to sabotage this industry, or destroy it, or at least bring it down a notch? And you wanted to do it without anyone seeing it coming, without anyone sounding the alarm bells. Just how would you go about that? So, if we look at things from our perspective and they don't make sense, and then you switch your perspective to looking at their actions trying to destroy us, well, then perhaps some of the things they're doing start to make sense. Perhaps the pieces of that puzzle start to fall into place. All the way back to 2021, when they hired some schmuck with a history degree and no gambling experience to run the top regulator in the world. Or why they hired a bunch of new commissioners with no gambling experience whatsoever. Or why they use false data to double our taxes, or why they are taking mandatory levies, or why they made the act of gambling for players such a burdensome, difficult, unrewarding invasion of privacy. At least, that's how things look to me. So I'm going to wrap it up. I'll see you all again in 2026. Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah. And if it upsets you that I said Merry Christmas, well, Merry Christmas anyway. I'll see you in January, God willing. There were no bloopers. Well, I take that back. There were a couple, but they weren't funny. It's just me cocking things up as usual. So I'm not going to show them. Instead, I will say thank you to everyone out there who made another year of this program possible. I need you guys watching so that I can continue to pay my child support and rent and food and medical insurance. Well, you get the point. Anyway, having you guys chime in the forums and make comments and giving me feedback every week, that does keep me going. That is how I made it to the end of the year, so thank you. I hope you all have a blessed and safe, wonderful, and happy holiday season.